Hello everyone, it is me, CoffeeStitcher, doing a quick little Flosstube extra. Someone asked if I would be able to do a video on how I kit up one of my felt projects. And since I finished the nativity yesterday, which you'll see in the next video, this was kind of the perfect time to do that. So I'm going to take you through kind of the anatomy of a kit, walk you through some of how I do things, and then you'll see some stuff as I kind of go along. This is going to be a little bit of an involved video, so we're going to see how well some of this all works. So, but the kit that we're going to be working with is going to be this one. It is by Mary Stockings, and it is called Black Cat. It is a trick-or-treat tote. So the front side has a cat with a little spider and a frog and a jack-o'-lantern, and the back says trick or treat with a ghost. All right, so let's see what's inside. All right, so anatomy of a kit. Forgive the fact that I'm using an ironing board. I don't really have a good setup for top-down. So the kits will always come with instructions. Bucilla, theirs are done a little different than Mary Stockings. Mary Stockings does a nice little booklet, whereas Bucilla uses insert sheets. But they're always going to include your basic stitch diagrams, how to do it, give you your kit information, as well as the diagrams on placement and the order of instructions. And then also, you know, for instance, like these pumpkins are supposed to be outline stitch 1 strand brown floss, and faces are satin stitch 2 strands of black floss. The floss that you get will generally be DMC. Bucilla does like using CXC in their newer kits. But they will always include the DMC colors in the name, or in the kit instructions. So, for instance, if I decided that on my pumpkins, I wanted to do 3 strands for my black floss, which I generally do on satin stitch, then, obviously in this case, I know black is 310, but it'll tell me how much 310 I've got, and then if I need to get more, well, then obviously I get more. All right. And then they also almost always will include a lettering guide if you've got a part that you need to personalize. Mary Stockings tends to stick to this particular font, but I've seen Bucilla do some very different fonts across the board. You also get your needles. They generally send a number 7 and a number 10. The 7 is a crewel embroidery, whereas the 10 is a bead needle. And then it includes your sequins and your beads. I don't know what I've done with my clear beads, but that's okay because I actually tend to prefer replacing my beads and sequins with a brand called Cartwright's, and I'll show you those here in a few moments. Some people stick to the kit sequins. Nothing wrong with doing that, particularly if you're just starting and you want to decide if this is your thing or not. Stick with the kit sequins. They generally will send you enough, but fortunately companies are really good if you're shorted some, or I know sometimes like the brown sequins that Bucilla uses are not the best. If they come and they're like really tarnished looking, they'll send you replacements at no cost. This one includes 2 pipe cleaners. Most of the brands don't do this, but Mary Stockings does. If you need a pipe cleaner for stability or for shaping, they'll include it. And then, in this case, there's also some laser cut letters that are in their own separate pouch, so that way if the letters do come free, you're not missing them. And then you get, of course, your pre-printed felt. Now, what I've already done here is I have interfaced them. I like to interface the backs. It makes them a little sturdier, particularly for embroidery. I use white on most colors. But if I've got a really dark color, like this fuchsia or the blue that makes up the bulk of the trick-or-treat bag, I will use black. Just so when you cut out, sometimes interfacing, you can see it on the edges. I usually try to trim away a little bit, but just in case there's any interfacing that's still showing, it's less likely to show up on the black, show up that way. There are some pieces that I chose not to interface, but I did still iron. That's usually for a couple of reasons. Either it's because it's the side that's going to face outwards is on the back. So like in this case, we are going to applique the front part to here, and then our nice little black handles go there. So this side is actually going to be the inside of the bag, but since it's open, I didn't want it to be interfaced. So I left that alone for that reason. Interfacing doesn't necessarily provide stability in terms of strength. So like if it's going to stand up, that's not what it's going to do, but it does give you a little more room to grab with the embroidery. All right. So once I've done that, then we get into the fun part of the kit. So we're going to replace some of the kit sequins. I have some holographic gold star sequins that I used in the Nativity that I actually did not put back yet because I thought I might want them. So I'm not sure what I did with them though. Are they in here? No. If they're around somewhere, I will find them. But for instance, let's take a look at the green sequins. So I've got these lovely options here. Midori is probably a good replacement, but these are holographics. If you notice, they've got a little bit of a texture to them so that they reflect the light better. But I also have some that have a different finish, like this one called Mystic Meadow, that has more of an iridescent finish to it. And then I even have a couple of mixes, like this one, which is called Limelight, which has some holographic, it has some metallic, it has some iridescent. So that would be one that I might use on a bigger piece where there's a lot more dense sequining. But in this case, I think I am going to stick for this to replace the green with Mystic Meadow. The purple, I'm going to go with, I don't really have a purple that's quite that same level there, but the purple is used, it looks like, on the hat and in the border. So I think at least in the border, I will probably go with Heather, because that seems like that's going to look really nice. No, that's actually not. Sour Grapes, though, will, because it's a similar finish. No, that's really not either. I don't have a good purple. We may be ordering from Cartwright shortly. Because I don't think these are going to be 4mm. They're vintage colors. No, those are going to be all pink. Looks like we're going to be having to place a Cartwright's order to find a good purple replacement. But that's okay. Then we've got the black, which black, there's not a whole bunch of choices there. There is holographic black, which really shows up almost a little more brown than it does black. So I will go with just regular good old black here, which is not too much different. Now with whites, that gets a little more interesting. So I am going to look at, Moonshine's not going to be right. White satin's not going to be right. Luster's not going to be right. No. So let's do White Moonlight. I need to order some Moonlight ones too. All right. And then we've got the yellow and the orange. So for orange, there's not a ton of choices again for that one as well. We've got some good holographic orange. Pardon me there with that edit, I sneezed. So the orange, we're just gonna do this nice holographic orange here. And for the yellow, let's do, I'm thinking maybe high voltage. Yellow is too clear. Or do I want to do Luscious? Let's do Luscious Lemon. I think that's going to be a good choice. Oops, Sedona Sunrise, you stay there. All right, so with the exception of our purple and our stars, which I have somewhere else, those are that. And then for bead choice, I am going to use, I've got some black beads that match these, so we're just gonna add those to that collection. I am gonna use, though, I've got some nice yellow beads for Luscious Lemon, and I've got some nice orange beads to go here. I have these beautiful ones that are called Aurora Borealis Crystal that I'll use with my whites. Black is already taken care of. And for the green, I'll play with this. I may use this one or I may use the Aurora Borealis. It'll kind of depend on how they end up looking together. But that takes care of beads. So, now that I've done that, we're gonna come in here. I am going to need some plastic canvas for this piece, so we're going to put have the plastic canvas over here. And then I've got a scrapbook box. And the scrapbook box is basically where everything else goes. So inside the scrapbook box, we've got my favorite Silk Lame braid that I use a lot with these. I've got a container of most of the floss colors that get used in these projects. So if I need to pull more or if I'm already going to swap, I can. A pin cushion. A bag with some stuffing in it that I need to refill. I have a little bead container that I use as an individual thing for if I need to mix colors together or if I'm working on a piece like on the go and I only need one color, I can throw it in there. I also use this a lot with my vintage projects because the vintage sequins aren't sorted. So I'll use a couple of these to help with sorting during the project. And then I have another, which I call my on-the-go container, which has basically everything I need to work on a project. So particularly with ornaments, I'll divide the ornaments up into their own individual sandwich bag. And then I can just take this and the sandwich bag and leave the rest behind. But inside I have my little stuffing tools. I have a water-soluble, air-soluble pin that I use if I need to custom tweak something. I have my little ring that holds my needles. And I've got another pair of scissors, which is, pardon my hiccups now, not in there. But I keep my scissors in there. And then the needles I like using, which are the ones in there, are betweens or quilting needles. They are smaller. They are perfect for both embroidery and beading. So it means I only have to use one needle. I don't have to change back and forth between. So into these will go my sequins and beads. Then we'll put these in here with it for now, just in case. So that will go inside. We're gonna put my plastic canvas. We'll put it kind of up in the top. It's gonna be trimmed down because I don't need the full sheet for this sheet size for this one. Floss will go in here. I do have floss drops that I use that I'll have to grab for this one. We're gonna keep its little letters in here as well as its pipe cleaners. The instructions, and then the felt pieces themselves. And this is the other reason for cutting them down, is so that with any luck you don't have to do quite as much folding of the pieces of felt to put it in there. Oop, apparently my floor is dirty where I set that down as well. Okay, well, that is what it is, I guess. And then we're just gonna take that out for the moment. And then there you go. That is one kit ready to start. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them below or send me a message either on Instagram or by my email, which is coffeestitcher@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it wasn't too awkward. But yeah, anyhow, have a great rest of y'all's day, and I'll see y'all next week for a regular floss tube.